Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Picture this for a moment. The Toronto skyline is quiet, the off-season air is cold, and somewhere deep inside Rogers Centre, the walls are listening. They've just heard something that could alter the course of the franchise for years to come. This changes everything for the Toronto Blue Jays, and I don't say that lightly. Not as clickbait, not as exaggeration for the sake of noise, but because a new report has dropped that feels like the first domino in a chain reaction that could reshape this entire off-season. If you're watching the Blue Jays report right now, you've arrived at exactly the right moment, because what we're about to unpack doesn't just affect one player, it rewrites the strategy, the confidence, and the ambition of this front office moving forward. Before we dive headfirst into it, take a second, genuinely, to like the video, share it with another Blue Jays fan who's glued to their phone this winter, and subscribe to the Blue Jays Report if you haven't already. Your support fuels these deep dives, and trust me, you're going to want to be here for what's coming next. Now let's talk about the name that sits at the center of this storm, Bo Bichette. All off-season long, his future has hovered over Toronto like a looming question mark, pacing back and forth, tapping its fingers, daring someone to blink first. We've heard wild numbers, dramatic predictions, and contract estimates that felt more like lottery tickets than reality. 8 years. $200 million. Franchise-altering money that would force the Blue Jays to choose their battles very carefully. And then, quietly, almost suspiciously quietly, Ben Nicholson-Smith dropped a report that hasn't been shouted from every rooftop yet, but absolutely should be. According to Nicholson-Smith, who doesn't throw words around for sport, league expectation is circling around a deal in the range of 5 years, $130 million for Bo Bichette. Let that sit with you for a second. 5 years. $130 million. In a market where comparable talents are flirting with contracts north of $200 million, that number doesn't just surprise, it whispers opportunity. It's the kind of number that makes front offices sit up straighter in their chairs and start sketching new plans on whiteboards that were already full. If that figure is even remotely accurate, it doesn't just make sense for Toronto, it becomes a borderline no-brainer. This isn't a salary cap league, and Rogers has never been shy about spending when the moment calls for it, but value still matters. Flexibility still matters. And suddenly, with a number like that, the Blue Jays aren't boxed in. They are liberated. They're no longer choosing between Bo Bichette and the rest of the roster. They're choosing Bo Bichette and then asking, all right, who's next? Bo himself is a fascinating character in this story, because he's never played the free agency game loudly. He doesn't leak frustration. He doesn't posture. He doesn't flirt with other markets through the media. Instead, he's been consistent, almost stubbornly so, in saying he wants to be here. He wants to win here. He wants to play alongside Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and when a player keeps repeating the same message year after year, sometimes the smartest thing you can do is listen. Dan Shulman recently hinted that the odds of Bo returning to Toronto may have quietly increased, especially in light of the Blue Jays' recent postseason run. Winning changes things. It softens doubts. It reframes sacrifices. Players remember how it felt, the noise, the energy, the belief. Bo didn't just grow up in this organization, he grew into it. Toronto isn't a stop on his journey, it's the setting of his story. And if you believe even half of what those close to him are saying, the desire to stay is genuine. Keegan Matheson went even further, openly stating that Bo has always said he wants to spend his career in Toronto, with Vladdy wearing that uniform. Matheson's not guessing from afar. He's been around Bo as much as almost anyone outside the clubhouse. His advice has been simple and consistent. Take Bo at his word. And Bo's word, even after heartbreak, even after disappointment, hasn't wavered. That's what makes the lack of serious noise from other teams so telling. Yes, there will always be speculation. There will always be a few opportunistic links thrown around for clicks. But compare that to players like Kyle Tucker, whose name is already being connected to half the league, and the difference is striking. With Bo Bichette, the gravitational pull keeps snapping back to Toronto. And if the financial commitment really is manageable, suddenly the Blue Jays don't just retain their star shortstop, they send a message to the rest of the league that they're not done building. This is where things get genuinely exciting. Because Bo Bichette isn't the end of the conversation, Here's the beginning of it. Lock him in, and the rest of the off-season opens up like a door that was previously jammed. Starting pitching becomes a priority that can be addressed aggressively. The bullpen can be fortified without hesitation. Big names, impact names, suddenly feel attainable rather than aspirational. Projections floating around have the Blue Jays dreaming big. Ranger Suarez. Devin Williams. Reinforcements that don't just patch holes, but elevate the ceiling of this roster. And none of it feels reckless when the cornerstone is secured at a reasonable cost. The sky genuinely becomes the limit, and that's not hyperbole, it's arithmetic. Ross Atkins has already hinted that the team is looking for infield help, starting pitching, and bullpen upgrades. That's not smoke, that's a blueprint. And while specifics are being kept close to the chest, the tone is different this winter. There's optimism without the usual undercurrent of anxiety. There's confidence without bravado. For those of us who've followed this team closely for years on the Blue Jays Report, that shift is impossible to ignore. Yes, the season ended in heartbreak. Yes, the images still sting. Vlad at the wall. Inches from immortality. Game 7 slipping through fingers that were so close to closing around it. That kind of ending doesn't fade quickly. But it also doesn't erase what this team proved it can be. They don't reach those heights without Bichette. His bat, his presence, his relentless edge were all part of the foundation. Even without him late in the postseason, the Blue Jays showed resilience. But to get there, to survive the grind of the AL East, to position themselves for October, they needed every bit of his production. The hits. The OPS. The consistency. He wasn't a luxury, he was a necessity. And now, as we stand here in the thick of the off-season, there's something different in the air. Other media voices aren't hedging as much. The skepticism hasn't vanished, but it's been pushed to the margins. Optimism has taken center stage. And when you combine that with tangible reports, not just vibes, it feels like the early chapters of something significant. If this 5-year, $130 million figure becomes reality, historians of this franchise may one day point to it as the moment everything aligned. The contract that didn't just keep a star, but unlocked an era. The deal that allowed the Blue Jays to be bold elsewhere. The decision that told the clubhouse, and the fans, that this window is being attacked, not tiptoed around. So as always, stick with the Blue Jays Report. Like the video, share it, subscribe, and stay locked in, because this off-season is far from finished. And if you've made it this far, you already know this story isn't about one report. It's about belief returning to a city that's been waiting patiently for its moment. And that moment might be closer than we think.